Okay, are we live? I hope all of this is working. I got a lot of new stuff set up. So if you can hear me, please let me know. If you can see me over here, let me know. I'm going to wait. I have the live stream up on my phone right here so I can make sure everything's working. I'm convinced I'm going to have some sort of technical difficulty problem because I was having a whole bunch of problems trying to get this set up and working. So if you can hear me, let me know in the chat. Hello, I see a couple of hellos. Hello from Holland. Let's see here. I think you should be able to hear me. It's just the delay for everyone to be able to respond. I think everything should be working though. I'd assume that I'd hear or see a lot of I can't hear yous in the chat if you wouldn't be able to hear me. Oh, let's see. Everything looks good so far. Okay, thank you. So, I got a new little wireless microphone, as you can see right here. So hopefully that'll help improve the sound. But today, we are going to be working on building a controller box. I have a ton of parts over here that we're going to look at, select a few of them to put in the box. And if you're watching this after it's live, I'm going to try and put timestamps in the description. If I don't forget, I might forget, but I think you can do that for live streams. But so if you're watching this in the future after it's live, I'll have timestamps so you can see exactly the different parts of the video and skip to whatever you want to see. So I'm convinced this phone is going to stop streaming the video because it's wirelessly connected to my computer. But I'm going to try to move it so I can show you everything that we have over here, and hopefully it won't stop working. So, we have a couple of different controller boxes. This looks like it's working. Okay. A couple of different controller boxes. We have some controllers, some smart receivers, some power supplies, and a whole bunch of other parts. And what I'm hoping to build is a controller box for the F16 V5 with 2 power supplies in it, one for each half of the board, and connect a fuse breakout board for power injection wires. And I have a whole bunch of wires underneath the table that we can hook up. And I made a poll asking, would you like to see a simple controller box or a more complicated one? A lot of people said complicated, complex one. So this, I think, is more on the complex side. And then eventually for an actual video, I'll make a new video putting together a simple controller box since I haven't done that in a very long time. Also, something I wanted to quickly show off is this new How To Pixel sign I made with a little, what is it, light strip thing. It can change colors and stuff, and it's quite fancy. It's made out of cardboard, so I don't know if you can actually hear that. I'm so used to the audio coming through my phone, but now it's coming through a new microphone. So, let me put this back up here and hope that it won't stop anything. There we go. Okay. Sounds good, sounds good. I'm just looking at the chat right here. Okay, looks like everything's working out good. Another piece of technology I figured out how to make work. I got a thing hooked up to my tablet so I can change the different scenes on OBS, which is what I'm using to live stream, from here. So I don't have to go over to my computer where everything is going out to. So I should be able to like hit this button and change it, and it should say we'll be right back right now. I think you should be able to still hear me. And then I can go back here, and so thought that was pretty fancy. Anyway, this, I have no script, no plan at all set up. I'm just hoping to show you how I build a controller box, my entire process going through it. And like I said, this is how I do it. So other people might have other ways of doing it. This is how I'm going to do it for this video. So to start off, I have a CG 1500 enclosure right here. These are this is like the common controller you'll see most light shows use. It's not the biggest one, but I've enjoyed using this. Most of these parts I get from Wired Watts. You can see right there, it says Wired Watts. And I just love getting stuff from them because I consider them the Walmart of light shows. Everything you need you can find at Wired Watts. So The CG1500, I haven't been able to find these lately. I'm not sure if they've been out of stock. Like, everywhere I can't find them. So the new ones that Wired Watts have been selling are literally the exact same right over here. It looks just like a CG1500 enclosure, except it's a little bit different. The screws are slightly different on the inside. The mounting brackets are different, but it's almost the exact same. So I'm going to be using the CG1500 though, not this one, because I personally didn't like the new way everything's mounted in here. So I'll be using this. And then you also have here some different brackets for the enclosure. Let me just make sure they don't make them anymore. Okay, I was not aware of that. So apparently they don't make the CG1500s anymore. I'm not sure why, because that was my favorite enclosure. Everything was great with them. So you'll probably have to look into the other enclosure that Wired Watts has been selling. I think it's the R something. I'm trying to remember the name of it, but I can't. Yeah, no, I can't remember it. But they sell those, so they're almost the exact same as the CG1500. And then they also sell giant like ammo boxes, I think they're called, and you can fit much more stuff in them. Usually with one of these you can fit one controller, a couple of receivers, and then 1 or 2 power supplies, which has been fine for me. If I need anything more than that, I'll just get another box. I'd prefer not to have giant boxes all over the yard. So they make different mounting plates that you can buy from many different places. I get mine additionally, or again, from Wired Watts. Now it's just the Wired Watts duplicate, so I'm assuming that's what the more dark gray one is. So anyway, the brackets. So what these do are they fit into the controller box. You normally put 4 screws in each of the corners, and then you mount all of your stuff onto this. Not in that order though. You normally mount your controllers and power supplies first, then you take the bracket with all of that on it, put it in the box, and then screw that into the box. So now these ones are some sort of thick plastic. If you have a 3D printer and you're wanting to do all custom stuff, you could do that. Or you can get other kits like this one I have right here that's also meant for fitting in a CG1500, or yeah, CG1500. This is meant to hold an HP server power supply, so a lot of power from a little thing, which is this power supply right here. It's massive, well, massive with the amount of power it can put out. The size is quite small, but it can put out up to like 80 amps, I think, 12 volts if you're using 120 volt AC input. So if you want to use one of these, you need a different sort of kit, something like this. And then it came with a bunch of these tabs, these sticky little, I think they're called, I found them online. They're like sticky screw tabs that you can use to put different components onto them. So if I can try and do this on camera right here. I don't have the best light right here. They basically, just the holes on your circuit boards, whatever they are, they fit through them, and then you could push it in all the way, snap it in, and then they have like a little tab you can push to pull it back out if you need to. I have a picture of them on my computer that I could try and pull up, so give me one moment to grab that. A nice thing too about using this new microphone that I have is I can walk all over and you should still be able to hear me with good volume. So let me switch to this. Yeah, this is what they look like. I literally just searched plastic sticky screws for PCB and they come up. They have little tabs you can pull on the bottom so they stick to whatever you want. They're super useful if you have pieces that don't fit the normal mounting brackets that you can get at Wired Watts or any other places you buy your controller boxes. So, oh, I realized my camera's blocking that. There you go. So yeah, they're super helpful. I got these from All Things Pixel, but I don't think their store exists anymore because anytime I try and look up the link, it doesn't work. So you can find these from, as you can see, Amazon, Walmart, a bunch of other places. So if we come back over here, So you can buy different brackets that have holes in different spots for whatever your plan is. So I always buy the Falcon board mounting brackets because I only use Falcon controllers. They're my favorite type of controller. Never had a problem with them. But if you have something like SAN devices or Cult boards, I think the new one is, the Genius board that David Peace has been making. You can get separate brackets for each of those, so it will be custom made to fit those types of controllers. So I have multiple different brackets here. These ones are for the old CG 1500 box. This is for the new controller box. It's like the duplicate version. Let me take a second to read chat. Those black plastic sheets are ABS, 3D printed, flat and thin ABS like that would be challenging. Probably better you just buy the sheets and drill them out. PLA would work from heat ped. Is that supposed to be pet or peg? Might work. So to respond to the first thing, that does make sense. Probably better to buy sheets of these and drill the holes out yourself instead of 3D printing them. So the very first thing I do when I get ready to hook up a controller box is I put the power supply in first. So let me move some of the stuff that we don't need out of the way. And let me cover the parts that the extra pieces of hardware you should probably have when you are wanting to put this together. So you're going to want some tools, screwdrivers. I find it very helpful to have a little pair of tweezers or something that you can use to grab onto like the little spacers so they don't slip out underneath the controller, which you'll see that's a big challenge. I also have wire strippers. I can't remember if I said that or not, but you will have to strip some wire to hook the power supply to the controller. And you're going to need mounting screws, which normally should come with the bracket depending on where you buy them from. I have a bag of a bunch of different types of screws, from like computer screws to screws that are meant to go into the wall or into the enclosure, and screws for everything. I also have this little screwdriver kit that's actually been really helpful. It has a whole bunch of different bits that I could just put it right into the screwdriver, so if I need any size at all, I should be able to find it without a problem. Also, I have another light right here that I'm going to try and hook up, so when I'm showing stuff on the camera, it might come out a little better and brighter. If I can get it to turn on. There we go. There, so now you should be able to see things a little bit better when I show them right here. So, yeah, just this little screwdriver, and I could pick any of the bits, so I won't have to have like 100 screwdrivers out. And then you're going to want some wire to connect the controller to the power supply. And this is optional. I like having this just to test everything to make sure it works. I have a multimeter on standby, so I can just check all my connections, make sure they're getting the right voltage so I don't blow up anything. And then you will also need a power cable, which I have one down here, a cord to power the power supplies, so one end can just plug right into the wall, and then the other end, you'll want that to be cut off so you can get the 3 wires in the cable. You have your ground wire, which is this one right here. You have your neutral wire, which is the one in the middle, and then your load wire, which is the black one right here. And this is meant to go right into the power supply, since the power supplies don't have plugs that you could just plug in. Let me take a second to read chat. PETG is a different 3D printable material, higher glass transition temperature than PLA. It's more tough but less rigid. For any filament type printing, flat and thin, risks wrapping the corners. Enclosed printers reduce most of those issues. I honestly don't know a whole bunch about 3D printers, but I'm assuming you're talking about the different material types. For me personally, I just am going to keep buying the brackets the way they are because I don't have a 3D printer or know the different materials to make one myself. But you could do your own research and figure out the material types. If you have a 3D printer, I'm sure you know some of the different material types and you can make one of these yourself. Anyway, back to putting the thing together. So the very first thing, like I said I do, is hook up the power supplies. Normally on these mounting brackets, you have your power supplies at the top and maybe any power distribution for power injection wires at the top. And then your controllers normally go at the bottom. At least that's for the brackets from Wired Watts. Other brackets might be different. And you can also not have controllers in here if you want this just to be for power supplies. You could fit up to 4 power supplies, I think, in here if you double stack them and have a row here, and each row can have 2. You could also have just controllers in here, like if you have an F48 type board where pixels aren't directly on it, you could have that in here because that wouldn't need a massive power supply. So you can really mix and match. And I think Wired Watts, I have a picture up for Wired Watts as well that shows a bunch of the different ways you can orient stuff inside. So yeah, this is the with the RNI 1500. That's what the new controller box is called. You can see here that you can mix and match. This has an F16 V4 and a power supply in it. This has 2 power supplies in it. This has the F48 in it with a power supply. You could have an expansion board with a controller in there. Smart receivers with power distribution. You can mix and match in many different ways. And then like this is the one for cult boards. As you can see, it has some of the different versions of cult boards in here. You have one for your Genius controllers. So really they have brackets for almost everything. Let me switch back here. So I'm going to take 2 power supplies because this controller box, I'm going to say that there's a lot of pixels running off of it. So we need more power. 1 power supply isn't going to be enough. So if you want to put 2 power supplies in an enclosure with a controller as well, which I'll be using the F16 V5 like I said, you would want something like this. These are little brackets that they're kind of hard to see because they're clear. Let me see if that helps at all. They're clear brackets that you could put onto the sides of the power supplies to stack them on top of each other without having them really close together like this. Because if you have them stacked like this, there's going to be no airflow. It's going to heat up and it'll be really dangerous. But if you have them more like this, this will help put a little gap in between them for air to flow through and make everything better. So the way I normally do it when I'm putting together my controller box is I'll start by mounting just 1 power supply first onto the bracket. Then I will put on the second power supply after I put on the first one. So the power supplies have a bunch of different screw holes on the bottom, but the main ones you'll normally be looking for are the ones more towards the middle, this one, here, and there. Those 4 are the ones that will line up with 4 of the holes on the Falcon mounting bracket. And the power supplies should also line up with any other type of bracket as well, since no matter which controller you have, you're going to be needing a power supply. So I'm going to pull out some screws out of my bag. The first 4 I'm going to get are, there's smaller ones. Let me see if I can find them. They're all mixed up. I haven't had a chance to sort them. Let me see here. Oh, that one's the wrong one. Here we go. They look like this. It's very hard to show this one. I can't see what I'm showing. I have to look off to the side. These are little tiny computer-like screws because the threads on them are much closer together. So it's like a computer screw or something, I think is what it's called. And just Phillips head. This can go under the bracket like that. Or this is really hard to show, I'm sorry. They go on the back, so the screw part where you put the screwdriver, that's on the back. Then it sticks up just a little bit so you can screw it into the power supply, which will be sitting here. Let me take a second to look at this. Oh, we got a bunch of... Chat is going crazy. Let's see, what do we have in here? Buy the brackets, save yourself the time, and support the people making them. I agree with that. I make most of mine out of wood, which is much faster than printing and works well. I've never heard of that before. I'll have to try that myself. That's actually a good idea. What AI features would you like to see on X-Lights in the future? I'm going to save the Q&A for the end, so if I forget about that question, remind me. I did put Q&A in the title because I'm willing to answer any questions on any stream. But I'm going to try and get through this without getting distracted first. Thank you very much for the $50 super thanks. Love your videos, Nick. Very clear and helpful. Thank you. That means a lot. Thank you very much. Especially with live streams, I'm always worried that I'm not that helpful because I can get off track very fast. But thank you very much, Mark Hill. Anything else? I get all my stuff from Build a Light Show. I think is UK based, which is good for me in the UK, and prices seem to be pretty good. I have ordered a few things off of Build a Light Show before, and they've been really good for me, and I think they are UK based. So yeah, great place to buy stuff from. Anyway, where were we? Let me try not to get distracted. So, if you look at your enclosure box, they have some different types of holes on the bottom. You have 5 smaller holes right here, and then 2 bigger holes to when you're looking at it, to the left right here. These are the holes you'll want to use for your power cables, and for Ethernet cables since they're bigger, and then you can use the other holes for like your pixel data cables, or cables for smart receivers if you need those. So, the reason I point that out is because it matters how you put your power supply on the mounting bracket. You normally want all of the terminals to be facing out towards the left because your power wire can then easily come out right down the side and right out the big hole on the bottom. Whereas if you put the power supply this way on the bracket with the terminals to the right, then your power cable is going to have to go out one of the smaller holes, or you'll have to wrap it around and it won't look as nice on the inside. So I'm going to start by screwing this in, and what I normally like to do is flip the power supply upside down. Let me see if I can try and get a better angle of this for you. There we go. So I flip the power supply upside down and I put the mounting bracket on top of it like this, and it allows me to line up the holes to all of the screw holes on the power supply so I can see where each of the screws need to go. And sometimes I need something, like I'll just take another power supply to put under it so the board doesn't try and fall off while I'm doing it. So let me line this up with the holes, if I can find them. Oh, I lost them. There they are. Okay. So it's now lined up. Sure thing, no worries. It'd be nice to have AI feature for the Sing Faces. Okay, so the screws, I have noticed with some kits, the screws for the power supplies have spacers for the bottom, so there's airflow underneath the power supplies, and I used to use them, but I had been running out of spacers and I needed some for the smart receivers. And since my power supplies are normally out in the cold anyway, as long as there's airflow on the top, I don't worry about the bottom as much. I don't recommend doing this because I haven't looked up or tested what the dangers could be of this. I haven't had any problems with it though before, so I think it should be fine, at least for my situation. So I'm going to take a Phillips head screwdriver and just one at a time screw the screws into the power supply, and this is the easiest way, so you don't even have to hold anything. Just having the power supply underneath and the mounting bracket on top of it. Have it lined up with the holes so you can put it in. And you want to be careful. You want to be careful if you have really long screws not to go that far in, and you shouldn't be using long screws to begin with because it could puncture something on the inside of the power supply. So I will screw these in, get them nice and tight. Got one more right here. There we go. And now we have a power supply on the board. It's not coming off. It's on there. I don't put any of the cables, I don't hook up any of the cables until the stuff is all on the board. And then any cables that need to be running outside of the box, we'll get to that in a few minutes, because you don't want to put those through until you are ready to put your bracket into the enclosure. Next, when you move on to the second power supply on the top, let me see again if I could try and move this to get a better angle here. I wish I could zoom in. There we go. Okay. So these little brackets that allow you to hook 2 power supplies in one box have special screws that come with them. They normally come with 8, so let me pick out 8 of those screws. They are, again, the very thin threaded screws. They look like this. If I can get it to focus, I am not going to be able to. Very small screws, again, just Phillips head top. And the way I found this easiest is putting the brackets on both sides of the power supply first, and then putting the second power supply into the top of it afterwards. And you also want to look at the holes on these brackets. The power supply on the top shouldn't be directly over the other power supply. It should be slightly to... it shouldn't be like this. It should be slightly like this to allow you to access all of the screws, and it makes it easier if you need to put in wires or take out wires. So I will put on the bottom one first, and I'm not going to tighten them super tight, because if you do, you won't be able to fit the other power supply on the top. I'm just going to use my fingers to get it started so it doesn't fall out. There we go. So let me screw that in, not all the way, leave a little bit of room so I can fit the power supply on top. And now I get to dig through this little bag to try and find more screws. And I hope you can all see all right. Let me read the chat. If anyone needs me to move the camera, just let me know and I can try and find a better angle, because I know this one's a little awkward. I was hoping to set up my GoPro to wear on my head while I'm doing this, but I couldn't get that to work, so we're stuck with this one camera. Let's see here. I got this one side on. It's very loose right now, though, so that way I could fit the other power supply in. We can see, okay, great. Yes, set back from the lower power supply. That's what this helps you do, to make it slightly more set back, and you can access the screws on both power supplies. And let me get one more screw for the bottom one. Get in the hole, there we go. Tighten that up almost all the way. There we go, it's loose enough to fit the other one in. So now what we have is a power supply on the mounting bracket with the 2 brackets on the sides. They're clear, so they're very hard to see. Let me see. I'm trying to look at my monitor, see if you can see them okay. And now we could put the second power supply on top and screw them into the holes, so everything will work out great. Now this one is a little bit harder, because it has to be above the other power supply. And since there's nothing underneath it, it's just gonna, if you try and like leave it, it's just gonna fall onto the other one. So sometimes I have something I can put underneath here to keep it at the perfect height. Other times I'll just hold it while I put in the other screw. And how about some drone footage? Yeah, I don't have a drone. I wish I did. The light show would be a lot cooler if I could record it with a drone. But no, unfortunately, no drone footage. So they're easier to see than you think. It must just be my monitor then trying to look at it from across the room, see if you can see them all right. So I'm going to start with the back end of the power supply. I'm just lifting it up a little bit and lining it up with the screw hole. And I will put in screw, if I can get it to go in there, please. There we go. Also, don't tighten these all of the way until you get all 4 screws in. Now it's kind of leaning to the side because I only have that one screw in, so I'll hold this up, put the screw in on the other side. Let me make sure everything is lining up okay. There we go. So now we have the back side of the power supply in, but now I can do this with it, and you don't want to do that, so I need to put the other 2 screws in the front. Let me find them. Here we go. And I'll try and put this in the front so you can see it. I'm going to put it in this hole, screw that in, not tighten it all the way just yet. And then I need 1 more screw on the front side. And after this, we should be good. Okay, and now I'm just going to tighten this one all the way. We can tighten them all up all the way. Is that one? Oh, no, it's not crooked. It's just my angle of it. Is it crooked? This one is not going in right. Might be a little crooked. It's very hard to do things when I am trying to also make sure everyone can see them all right. So please forgive me if the viewing experience is not the best. You may want to look into magnetic screwdrivers. Makes it much easier to start the screws with one hand. Yes, and I think this is a magnetic screwdriver, right? Yeah, this is a magnetic screwdriver. It's just not the best magnetic screwdriver. So yeah, I will be looking for a stronger magnetic screwdriver. And then we have the 2 screws on the back here. And this enclosure, I might actually just keep together because this is exactly how it's going to be built for something in the light show. I will be using, for the first time ever, all 16 ports on a controller. I've never used all 16 ports, but the way I'm moving things around, I will be needing all 16. So now, let me make sure to tighten the bottom screws too. I forgot to do that. Don't want that falling off. Let's see, got that side. Then we just have this side over here. How many pixels will be in your display this year? Honestly, not many more than last year. I think maybe a couple hundred more. And the reason is because we've run out of room on the property. There's not much more room to expand. So all I'm doing is rebuilding some props to make them look cooler. Like, I explained this in the last live stream. I'm getting rid of one of the arches to put in a snow globe there. And the dragon is going to be in the Christmas light show as well. And I'm going to decorate it to be a Christmas dragon. So, the biggest thing, though, with this year's light show is adding the moving heads on the roof, if I can get everything to work out. So, yeah. And, let's see here. So now we have both power supplies on the mounting bracket. They are very sturdy, not going anywhere. And now we can have double the amount of power in this enclosure. So the next thing I will do is mount the controller. Now with this step, you have to be a little bit more careful because you don't want to break the controller. It's very fragile, has a lot of components on it. But with the extra weight of the power supplies, it makes it easy to stand the bracket up on its side and it makes it really easy to put the screws through. With the power supplies, you didn't need any nuts because the screws just went right into the power supplies. But with the controller, all it has is just holes for the screws to go through, but it won't screw into anything. So you will have to use nuts, and you will need a tool for them, and it makes it a little bit more tricky. This is normally a step that I get stuck on for a little bit of time because it's just, with also having to fit the spacers in, a little hard. When you put your controller on, you will want the ports to be towards the bottom and have it right side up, so when it's in your box, it will look like this. And that way your ports are right near the bottom. You could put all of the wires through, have them go right into the ports. A new problem that I have found with F16 V5 is with all the Ethernet, extra Ethernet ports, or technically RJ45 jacks, it is a little bit harder to make the box organized because you do have to run these in front of the controller to go out the holes if you have receivers connected up to this, which I will be having this year. Awesome, your display looks great as it is now. Oh, my phone got an ad right as I was trying to read the comment. That's funny. Awesome, your display looks great as it is now. Has all this snow melted so you can get the props off the roof yet? Yes, the weather has been quite interesting around here. It's actually, I think, or not today, but a few days ago, it was in the 80s. I got the props down actually a month and a half ago. The weather has just been all over the place. Cold, hot, cold, hot. It's finally starting to get more towards summer temperatures and we're away from the cold. But any day it could just go back down to 40 degrees and we wouldn't know. That's New York weather for you. Okay, so getting the controller on, I'm going to pull out 4 screws and I will show what these screws have on them in just a minute. I just got to find them in here. I know I sorted through this last night to find these to make sure I had them. Yes, okay. Oh, that one does not have a spacer on it. I need one with a spacer. Please. I have a lot of smaller screws which do work, but I like to use the bigger screws. Oh, here it is. Okay. So I have 4 of these, and it's just another normal Phillips head screw, and it has a nut on the other end, and then has this little spacer, and this is so the controller is not sitting right on the mounting bracket. So it puts it a little bit higher just to give it some space underneath, some airflow, and also so you don't damage anything on the back side of the controller. That's why this step is the hardest, because you have to get those little spacers to stay perfectly within the hole, or like above the holes, and not get anything to move. So the first thing I'll do is take apart each of these, and I will set them to the side so I can get to them. And then this is where the tweezers will come in handy, because you can just grab the spacers and hold them in place while you're trying to put everything together. Finally took my Megatree down 2 weeks ago in North Syracuse. Yeah, the weather here has been going crazy. And your show was great this year. I think, if I remember correct, yeah, I think I went to your show, because yeah, I got to go to your show. It was really cool. So let me see, where was I? Ah, yes, tweezers. And then I also have, is this the right size? It is the right size. This can hold the nuts in on the back while I'm screwing the screws tight, so it'll be tight. So I will set this upright, and I will normally start with the bottom. I will balance the controller on the power supplies like that, and slide it closer. Let me figure out where exactly all the holes are. And okay, it is lined up with all the holes. So this is very tricky to show on camera. I will grab the spacer with my tweezers, and then I will put it in between the controller and the mounting bracket. Hold it right there. I will put the screw through that and through. Oh, did I lose? I lost the spacer. It is right there. This is a very tricky step, like I said. I might just be doing it in a overcomplicated way. So if you have a simpler way, please feel free to let me know. There probably is a simpler way, at least for the first screw, but once it's in there, it's a little bit harder to get the other spacers, since you can't move the controller as freely when you have one of the screws already through. Now, did I put it through the right hole? Did I? I don't think I did. Oh, maybe? No? Yes? Nope, that is the wrong hole. Oh, I gotta go one hole over. So close. Also, when you have the bracket that separates the 2 power supplies, it makes it a little bit harder because you have less wiggle room. This controller box is going to be packed tight, so it does make it a little bit tricky. Hopefully the spacer doesn't fall off the screw when I pull this out. It is not. Okay, so we can put that in there. Now all of the holes are lined up, and I can take the little nut. I'm just going to hand tighten it on the back for now. I don't want to make it all the way tight, because now I can still have a lot of wiggle room to put the other spacers in. Let's see what we got here. We always come out to your show every year. My sister-in-law lives a few streets away from yours. That's awesome. I hope you enjoyed the show this past Christmas. Okay. Next screw, I will take this one and put it through this hole. Let me try and lower the camera to see if this might help give a little bit better view. My tripod is a little bit messed up, so I did have to tape a leg back onto it since it fell off. A little bit lower. Let's see. Let me get rid of this power strip that I was using to charge my phone. This is a very big DIY project. I don't have much of the proper recording gear. It's kind of just pieces taped together and being held up by zip ties almost. This should give you a much closer view of it. So now I'm going to take sorry, just reading chat, 1 second. Has the program app you use for your audio to people's phones during show continued to receive updates? Yes, it is, and if I believe it will remain free this year as well, but they do encourage you to upgrade to, they will have like a paid version. I'm not sure of all the details, so I'm not going to say anything just because I'm not 100% sure. But it will still be up and running for this Christmas. So I'm going to take the tweezers again and grab the little spacer. I'm going to try and get it between the hole and the controller, or the hole and the, try and get it between the controller and the mounting bracket. I cannot speak. Almost. This is quite a fidgety step. Let me try and use my slightly magnetic screwdriver to hold the screw in place. That is not working out for me. Okay, let's see. Hold the spacer right by the hole. This is a very hard step if you could not tell. Oh, let me try and use another pair of tweezer thingies to help hold this screw and get it into the hole. This one is really hard as well because there is an Ethernet port not even a centimeter away from the hole, so my fingers cannot fit in between the components right there to get this screw in. Might be a bit easier if I try to flip this upside down first, then put it in the hole and figure it out once it's in there. The screw hole is this hole right between these components, so I'm having a very hard time. There we go. It's in there. Almost. Wiggle it around. Come on, get in there. It appears that the screw might actually be right in the way of, I've never had this happen before. This is quite interesting. It looks like the screw for the power supply bracket is right in the way of this screw, and this screw might be a little bit too big. I might have to use one of the smaller screws on this hole to get this to work. Come on, get out there. There we go. Yeah, I've actually never had this happen before, but this screw for this power supply bracket is making it so the screw for the controller will not fit in the hole. So let me, you know what? To help save time so we can also get to the Q&A, I'll just skip that hole for now and I will come back to it after the stream or something. Let me get the smaller tweezers because this makes it a lot easier. Looks like surgery. It does feel like surgery right now. Sometimes I have a better time if the controller is flat. Like this time it's working right now. That was pretty easy. I just held the spacer with the tweezers, got the screw right in, and the spacer's there. Now I can take the little nut, screw it, hand tighten it on the bottom for now so I still have room for the third one. I will grab the spacer and grab that with the tweezers, put it right in under there, hold it there, put the screw through it. There we go. Flip this up and switch hands so I can grab this the right way. And then hand tighten it on. And there we go. 3 out of the 4 screws are successful. The fourth one, we just won't talk about that and we'll come back to that afterwards. So if we were to imagine now all 4 screws are in here, we can now take the screwdriver on one side and take whatever tool you have to hold the nut on the other side, and we can just go through and, if I'm not so shaky, tighten it. This one is appearing to not quite fit. I might have the wrong size. Oh, there we go. You will need to apply a little bit of pressure, but it is very hard to tighten it because these are, I think they're called lock nuts. There is no real load on the board, so 3 screws will work just fine. Yeah, exactly. I will tighten this one up, and the board should not be able to move at all after this. This is not the right size. I do have another tool right here, but I just don't have the end to hook onto it, and this one does not come off. But what I have done in the past that works is just hold it with my hand and tighten the screw this way. And this does feel like surgery right now, and it always does feel like surgery. This is by far the hardest part, in my opinion, trying to get the controller mounted. It's even more tough when you have multiple receivers and you're trying to get all the receivers to stay on the board. And there we go. Now we have everything on the board. It's not going anywhere. Perfectly tight. Even without this one screw right here, it will be fine for this example. So we have all the components on the board. Well, except for one, if we did want to put it on. We could put on this little power distribution board on top of the power supply. And the way you could do that is by taking the little, oh, I forgot the name again. The little sticky thing screws that go on for PCB boards, the thing that I looked up earlier. We could stick these on top of the power supply and hook this up here. The only one you'd want to skip, though, is the one on top of this fan right here, so it doesn't block the fan. But this is safe to do. I have done it in the past. I just don't need to this year. But if I was to do it, I would put it like this and have the power wires come in from the power supplies around the back into the main terminals, and then all of your power injection wires can connect up here. So that's if we wanted to do that, but I am going to attempt to save time. 3 out of 4 is pretty good. Yes, that is 75% of the screws in place. I'd say that is a success, especially for trying to do it while on camera. The next thing I would do is hook up the power wires between the controller and the power supplies. Now, for this setup, each power supply is going to power its own half of the board. If you know how the F16 V5 works, or any F16 controller, there are 2 power terminals, one on the left, which is supposed to be V1, but it's labeled V2, and the one on the right, which is the actual V2. V2 powers the 8 ports on that half of the board and all the other components on the board. V1 just powers the 8 ports on the left side of the controller. So if you wanted to, you could put 5-volt pixels on one half and 12-volt pixels on the other half, since you can have 2 different input voltages. But I'm going to be using 12 volts for both of them. And you might think that you could connect both of these to one power supply, which you could, but I'm going to connect one power supply to one terminal and one power supply to the other terminal. And the reason for that is I'm going to try and explain this without having any graphics, so it might be a little difficult. But if you need power injection, if the power injection wires go to the same power supply that the strand of pixels are on, you don't need to mess with anything else. You could just hook the power injection wire here, hook the beginning of the strand to whatever port, and as long as they connect to the same power supply, you're good. But if the power injection wire is on a different power supply than the rest of the power for the strand, you'll want to cut the positive wire of your pixels in between halfway where the power injection wire is and where the beginning power is. The reason for that is you don't want the power to backfeed from one power supply into another. So it just makes it a lot simpler if you can connect all of your power injections to the same power supply that the rest of the sections of pixels are on. I did explain this a little bit better in my power injection video. It's kind of hard to just come up with the right words to describe it, but hopefully that made sense. Standoffs, and you need to watch for clearance from the lid. Thank you. Standoffs are the word I'm looking for. And clearance for the lid, yes, I do need to watch out for that, but I haven't had a problem with this before. It does fit right in here. It's very close to the edge, but you can shut it it fits. And if you were to put the power injection board on top, I did also check, and that fits just barely as well, so there's no problem with that for me. But do make sure that you have enough room in your box when you're doing this. So, back to what I was saying with the power supplies. So for that reason, with all the power injection stuff, you're going to want to put your, or you don't have to, but I'm going to put the 2 terminals on separate power supplies. Do you use inline fuses when doing power injection? Yes, please 100% use inline fuses for power injection. Just in case something goes wrong, even if you've doubled and triple checked, you could have some sort of problem and the power supply is not protected. You don't have any fuses coming into here with your power injection wire, unless, of course, you have a fuse board like this, and this has fuses built into it. But if you don't, then you want to use inline fuses. The board already has fuses on it for the beginning part of the Pixels, and with the F16 V3, you can see it has physical fuses. This has e-fuses, but it still has some sort of fuse. Your power injection wire will not have a fuse, so you will want a fuse on that. Okay, so what you would want to do now is take some sort of wire to hook the positive and negative terminals of the power supply up to the terminals on the controller. And this is where your wire strippers will come in handy. You can cut the wire, you can strip it, and I normally use 16 gauge wire. I think this is, yeah, 16 gauge wire. It's worked fine for me. I've never had a problem with it running a lot of power through it since it's such a short distance. But any longer distance than anything in this box, if it has a lot of power, I would use more than 16 gauge. Okay, Google is misleading me, thanks. I thought you could connect 2 12-volt power supplies in parallel to get more amps, but I could be wrong. Not with this type of power supply. Yeah, that is correct. I'm not sure how other power supplies work, but with these, from what I've known in the past and gained knowledge from watching videos in the past, you want to keep these separate. For my wires, though, I already have some that are pre-cut for the right length, and they have, I'm so bad with remembering names for parts, but it has a little, like, fork-looking thing on the end, so it fits very nicely into the power supply, and, instead of having just a wire like this trying to go into the power supply, which could come loose, this helps hold it in a lot better, and you can screw the screw around that. I hope you could see that, okay? You just slide in like that. So, I'm just going to hook up one terminal for the purpose of this video to help save time, since we've already been going for a while. You can connect their grounds together and should, if power injecting from different power supplies. Yes, that is also correct. Give me 1 second to grab something. Okay, sorry about that. I'm back over here. So red, you want to use red for positive and black for ground, just because that's how everyone does it, and it will help you remember which one is which. The positive terminals are the far ones all the way up to the top of the power supplies. Let's see if this one will reach to go to V2. It should if I put it in the bottom positive terminal, and it will. So I will unscrew. I'm going to put the bottom power supply for V1, and the top one will be for V2 if we had it hooked up. So I will unscrew this terminal, put the little fork-looking thing into there, tighten that up. That is the positive one. And then we have this end of the wire. You can't really put anything on this because it has to go in just with the bare copper into there. You can't fit anything into the terminal on the power supply. The terminals have flathead. They need a flathead screwdriver, and I should have one that will fit right over here. This one actually might work out. And that one's a little too small. Let's see, that one will work out. Okay, that's where the handy dandy multiple bit screwdriver comes in use. Let me loosen these up. And loosen that one up. There we go. And now I will put in the positive wire to where it says V2. So the terminal says ground, and then it will either say V1 or V2. This should say V1, but it was misprinted when the board came out. If it says V1 or V2, that's the positive terminal, and GND is obviously the ground terminal. The grounds are on the opposite. The grounds are on opposite sides for the terminals, so you need to watch out for that. The ground is to the outside of the board. They're not left one is ground here and left one is ground here. It's not. It's opposite. And the reason for that is so the grounds can be connected for all of the ports. So your positive wires are always going to go to the inside of the terminals, and the ground wires are going to go on the outside of the terminals. So I will put my positive wire into where it says V2, and we will tighten that up. Or technically this is V1, but whatever. Let me get that nice and tight. And now I will grab a ground wire, a black wire for ground. This one is a bit too big. Let's see if I have a smaller one. And this one should work. So let me just twist the end so it's a little bit neater here. Anything new? You can connect their grounds together, and oh, I've read that already. Or if it's daisy chained, I believe as well. Daisy chain power. Are you referring to daisy chain power supplies? I'm not quite sure. Do you mean connecting the input power for both the power supplies together? Because I will be doing that in a moment, but I don't know how that affects the output side of things. I always just try and keep the power supplies separate from each other, except if I'm putting except the way the power comes into it, which I'll show in a second. That probably sounded confusing. I will clarify that in just a minute, but I'm going to put this wire into the ground terminal. That is not, oh, that is the ground terminal. Never mind. I thought I was going into the wrong terminal. So that's in the negative terminal. I will put it into the negative terminal on the controller. Just like that. Tighten that screw up. Let me just go check my microphone's battery to make sure it's not going to be dying anytime soon. Okay, we're fine. So now this is in, if I was doing this properly, I would have made these wires more perfect length so they're not hanging as much over the side. It's not that big of a deal though, just for this example. So, and I'm actually going to make sure that ground wire is in farther because it's sticking out a tiny little bit. Let's see. There we go. Okay. And now this side of the board will have power. This side will not have power since it's not hooked up. And I'm not going to hook it up for this video right now. Or for this live stream, I mean. But something you need to keep in mind is setting your switches for the controller, your power input switches for the V2 terminal, to tell the controller, are you going to be powering it with 7 to 13 volts or 5 volts? If V2 is going to be getting 7 to 13 volts, you want to keep the switch to where it says 7 to 13 volts. And if you're going to be powering this side with 5 volts, you want to set this to 5 volts. And if you're powering the board through this terminal, you want to keep this switch down. But if you're going to be powering this board separate from these terminals, you can use this external power connector right here. And if you're using that, you could put the switch up. I've explained this a little bit more in detail in the video I have about this, but I'm just trying to get through it quickly so we can move on. Okay, that's hooked up. The next thing, actually, I don't think there's anything else that we'd have to do before moving on to the next step, other than hooking up any other wires that stay in the box. If any wires are going to be coming out of the box, you need to do that in this next step, which we will get to. But I think we're good right now. I'm not going to hook up this power supply like I said. The next thing you'd want to do is take your controller box and mount this to whatever wall or structure you're going to put it on. And the way I do this is there's these indents here, and I just put holes through them so I can, let's see if you can see this okay. So I can just screw into these to screw it onto a board or onto a wall, whatever you need to. So this needs to be mounted onto the wall before you put your bracket in, because once you put your bracket in, you can't access those. So we'll just pretend that it's mounted to the table, let's say. And another helpful tip too is you can take off the door and just pop it off like that. and it makes it a lot easier when you're working on this, and you can pop the door back on afterwards. That was really loud. So next, the next thing you want to do is run all of your cables that need to go to, let's see if we can move this over here a little bit. All of the cables that need to go to the controller that go outside of the box, you'll want to run those through these holes and then put them into here. Because if you put, like, let's say this AC cable that I have right here to power the power supplies, if I was to hook this up just like this is not going to fit through that hole. So what I need to do is put this wire through the hole like this, so it's already going through the box, and now I can hook it up to the power supplies. So I'll just pull that all the way through so I have a lot of room. And let's see, you can use a single power cable as long as it can handle the combined input current. That's correct. That's what I'm going to be doing for this power supply. You can hook multiple power supplies up to the same input cable, but you just want to make sure that that your cable is thick enough and that it can handle that much power. I heard this from other people before, and this is my rule of thumb. I don't go more than 2 power supplies per cable for AC cable. So I can have 1, I can have 2, but if I need 3, I'm going to use a separate power cable for that, which is why my giant panel screen has 2 power cords, because there's 3 power supplies in there. So I didn't want all 3 of those being on one cable. So the way that I do this to hook these 2 power supplies together for power is I take 3 extra wires that I've already cut off from another cable. So I have green for ground, white for neutral, and black for load. And I connect these between the 2 power inputs on the power supplies, and then connect this to one of those so that the power can go through to both of these. So I will start with the ground one, and normally I put my input power on the bottom, but also just to speed through to make it a little bit easier to reach, I'm going to put my input power on the top power supply. It doesn't really matter, it's just how you want the, how you want it to look. So I will unscrew, these are already unscrewed, so I will put the ground wire into the ground terminal. This is the ground on the AC side, so the grounding wire. The white wire will go into the N for neutral, and once that's tightened up, the black wire will go into the load terminal. Yes, 2 supply max, otherwise you will probably just keep blowing the fuse at the mains box for house. Probably, yeah. In England, we have 240 volts. Yes, these power supplies can work with both 120 and 240 volt input AC on the AC side, but they do have a switch that you will have to flip depending on what your input voltage is. I have it set to 115 because in the US, our outlets output 115 volts. So those are all connected together, or not connected, but screwed into the terminals. So now I have these 3 wires, which I can loop up here and put into these terminals up here, just like that. And I put them on one side of the screw, and now I could take these 3 wires coming out of the power cable and hook them on the other side of that screw, because the terminals have a screw going down the middle, and normally you want to put your wire on the, let me think about this, the left side of it, so when you screw it, it pulls the wire in, but if you have 2 wires going in, it's kind of hard to fit them on the same side, so I put those ones on the right side of the screw. So I will put these also in here. It's a little hard when all 3 of these cables are close together. I wish this cable had a little bit more room. So I have the ground in first. Let me screw that up and make sure you can still see that. Yep, that's going to get screwed nice and tight. We are going to put in the neutral wire. You want to make sure that every little piece of copper makes it in and none of them are touching any other screws, because AC power is dangerous when it's at this voltage. So, and technically any voltage could be dangerous. So just make sure you're being extremely careful, inspecting through everything. And I'll put the load onto the load side. Those plugs are huge. Means in 240 volt land we can hook up 4 power supplies, half the... Yeah, technically you can. I don't know anything about using 240 volts though, so I'd have to, if I was somewhere else, have to look into if that's safe or not, but I'm assuming it probably is. So here is what we have. We have the ground, neutral, and load going into this top power supply, and it will power this first, and then 3 wires coming out of those same terminals, which are technically connected to this plug, going into the bottom power supply with the neutral, load, and ground. And now, if I was to plug this cord in, it will power both of these and should power the left side of the controller, but the right side isn't going to turn on because I don't have anything going into there. Let me just double check all my connections before I do that. So ground, those are connected together fine. That's going into there. Neutral, going into there. Load, it's connected there. We got our positive going into the positive terminal, negative into the negative, negative into the negative, positive into the positive. It looks good for me, so before I put anything in the box when I'm building something, I will plug it in just to make sure everything I've done on the inside works. So I will have to unplug this quickly. And hopefully we don't have any massive explosions live on stream. Did I do everything right? It looks like I did. But unfortunately, I am now just realizing that there are no indicator lights on the F16 V5, so we can't tell that it has power. But that is okay. It looks like I see the 2 lights on for the 2 power supplies, so that's working fine. Yeah, everything looks to be working out just great. Let me check chat. Is there anything new? Land of AC, DC, we can handle the power, lol. Yes, that's funny. You may want to mention the color code for the input wires. Yeah, I'll just go over that again. In the United States, at least, I think it's different in other countries. Green is the grounding wire for your power supply. The white one is the neutral wire, or the N, and the black one is the load, or the L. So make sure you get those right, because if you flip them, it could cause an explosion. I will unplug this so we can now continue on to the next step. And the power supplies are still going to stay on because they have a lot of capacitors in them. Nothing is sucking up the power, so we need to wait a few seconds for those to discharge. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. And then it'll be safe to touch anything. Okay, and so the next thing I would do is run any Ethernet cables that I need to through, or power injection cables through the enclosure box if this was connected to a wall. So let's just say this only has 1 Ethernet cable going into it. I have an Ethernet cable back here somewhere. If I can. Oh, of course it's stuck. Please don't get stuck for me. Here we go. I have this really short one right here, this white Ethernet cable. We could feed this through the big hole, and we could say this is just for the data coming into the controller. And we don't have to hook that up now, and let me actually put that under there so it's not tangled. And then any other wires you want to feed them through before putting the bracket into the enclosure, because it will be harder to feed wires through once that's blocking the holes. Blue is 0 or null, brown is live, and L is green, yellow for ground. So green and yellow is ground, brown is hot, I'm assuming, and blue is neutral. So that's if you have those colors for your wires. So now I have a bunch of different pigtails, Raywu pigtails. Well, I shouldn't say a bunch, I only have 3 right here. But we can feed these through these holes, and I don't recommend putting on the Euro connectors until they're through. That way you can fit more through. I can fit up to 4 pigtails, I think, through these small holes. Maybe, I think I've done 4 before, but I'm going to do 3 right now just to show that you could fit a lot through here. You could cram those through those holes, and it's very easy to do when you don't have your controller inside yet. So you could feed those through. You don't even have to hook them up yet. Just put them aside so they're already going through. And I also have a power injection wire too we can use as an example right here. This is one I built. It has a male pigtail on the end since power injection. Since I'll be putting this at the end of a strand, male pigtails will connect to it. We have the inline fuse. This has a 10 amp fuse on it for whatever it was using. And then we have our positive and negative wires. So we could put this through its own hole as well. Let me get that up in there. And we could just pull it out of the way like that. In England, green, yellow is earth, red, brown is positive, or live, black, blue is negative. Always double check Google though. Yes, that is correct. So now we can pull this cable, the power cable in, and set this inside the enclosure. Now if this was on a wall, it would be a lot harder because you have to hold it while putting in your screws, but thankfully we have it here like this, so we don't have to worry about it. The next step would be to put 4 screws in each corner of the board, but when you have double power supplies, you run into a little bit of a problem. It's not that hard to do though. You can't reach this back corner to screw in a screw. So what I do is pull out the 2 screws on the mounting bracket on the back side and loosen these 2 here so I can lift the power supply a little, and then I can fit a screwdriver in to put the 4 screws into there. I'm not going to worry about doing that. We can just imagine that I screwed those in. We can hook up this Ethernet cable, which goes there for the main data coming into the controller. We can now take these and connect them to our Euro connectors, which I will do one of those on stream. I have a whole bag of Euro connectors. I have both 3-pin and 4-pin ones. Let me show you the difference between them. Oh, almost threw that everywhere. The 3-pin ones are meant for smart receivers because, as you can see, if I'm not making a mess in here, the smart receivers need 3-pin Euro connectors. They don't take 4 because the receivers can't handle the extra signal that some Pixels need, which is the clock wire or the 4th wire. So and the controllers though, they take 4-pin Euro connectors, even if you're using 3-wire Pixels, because they do offer that extra wire, the clock wire, for some Pixels. So the order, which I've had memorized for years now, I don't even have to look at the controller, is ground is always on the left, negative is always on the left, and then the next one, you don't use that because that's the clock wire unless you need it for your Pixels. Data is the second to right, and positive is all the way on the right. So when you put your wires in here, it should look something like that. If that will focus. Yeah, something like that. And then you will need a very small flathead screwdriver to tighten these up. This one might actually be, no, it should fit. It's just slightly able to fit. Let me tighten those up. And the positive one. And there we go. Now we have this connected up here. So this pigtail can be connected to our Pixels. And we can connect this into whichever port we want. Again, if we're using a port that any of the 8 ports on the right side, that would be using this top power supply. Any of the 8 ports on the left side would be using the bottom power supply. And the reason I put these on after is just because if you try and cram these through the holes, it doesn't fit. So that's why you should screw them on afterwards. Now we can, the power injection wire. Let's say that this power injection wire needs to go to the top power supply. I normally would have put this through the hole closer over here so it lines up better. But like I said, this is just a little demo, so it doesn't need to be that fancy. Just the same as the power wires for the for the controller. Put the positive to the positive, put the negative to the negative. We got those in there, and then we could just screw this tight, just like that. And just like that. This is coming across here though, and I would never ever allow this. Even if it's not dangerous, which I don't see much danger with it, other than it going across the AC input, which that's a little dangerous. But it just looks horrible. So I would always put this going down the side, but this is just an example. And now we have our power injection wire that we could hook up. And we would only want to hook this to a strand that is connected to any of the 8 ports going to this power supply. That way we could keep all of our power injections on the same power supply as those pixels. Anything else I'm forgetting? Let me take a second to look at chat. You don't fuse them? No, I do fuse the power injection wires. I have an inline fuse right here. It's on the positive wire. It has a 10 amp fuse. The only power injection wires I have that aren't fused are the ones for the Megatree, but that is because I have, where did I put it? I have this little breakout board for power injection wires, and it has fuses built into it. So I always do fuse these just to be safe. Anything else? That really depends on the controller. Some are wired differently, and some use 3-pin connectors. Yes, thank you for bringing that up. I should mention that. Not all controllers have 4-pin Euro connectors. There are some that only have 3. So it really just depends on the controller, and make sure to look at the labeling on each of the ports. Like on here, you can see that it says G underneath one of the pins, G for ground, C, L, K for clock, D for data, and V for voltage, or positive. Anything else I'm forgetting? So this would be screwed into here. You can snap your door back on. All of these wires should go to something, but I just have them hanging out here. We can pull these a little bit out to make it look like that we put it fully together. Let me just pull those out. So yeah, these wires can be going into the controller. I would have a lot more Ethernet cables coming out for each of the receiver outputs, and even one for the DMX output, if this is for the Dragon, because that would be for the fog machine. And we could take the door. We could snap the door back on right here, and then we could close that up, and we have everything built in the enclosure. Yes, an inline fuse, that is what I'm using. So, yeah. Power wire going in, powering both these power supplies. We'd have power wires powering both halves of the controller. Data wires coming in and connecting to the controller. Ethernet cables, and a power injection wire or power injection wires. And I think that finishes it for this controller box. It's not the nicest looking. If I did have more time, I would connect it up nicely, but I am limited on time right now. Cat 5, yes, thank you for reminding me. Cat 5 cables, not Ethernet. That is my fault. I have a horrible habit of calling cables that connect to these Ethernet cables because they can be used for Ethernet, which is the data coming in for these ones. These are Ethernet jacks and can be connected to Ethernet devices, but these ones are Cat 5 cables because they don't send a Ethernet signal. I've been trying to work on that for a while. It's just a force of habit, always saying that. So I think that's going to finish it for this part of the stream. Now we can move on to question Q&A. If anyone has any questions for this or anything at all, thanks for the tutorial. No problem. I hope it was useful. I know it wasn't set up the best because it's a live stream, but hopefully in the future I can make one that, or make a video that shows this more in detail. I do it as well. Oh, for the Cat 5 cables. Remember there was a question a while back up here. Let me take a look at it. It was about AI in X-Lights. Oh, I didn't even read this one. Old trick for when you don't have a magnetic screwdriver is to rub the head of the screw on a wax candle, then stick it to the end of the screwdriver. The wax helps hold it in place. I've never heard of that before. That's quite interesting. Thank you for letting me know. Do you need all the screws? What if you leave the one screw out? I personally, it depends. For the controller, I would prefer putting all 4 in. But just for this example, I missed the one because I couldn't get to it easy. So yeah, but most of the time I would try and keep all 4 screws in, or any amount of screws in that need to be in. Where's the AI question? If whoever left the AI question is still here, if you'd like to leave it again just so I could look at it, since I can't seem to find it. Up here. I think it was towards the beginning. I can't find it though. How much would you charge me to make a box for me? I don't know if you are really interested in that. It depends on also shipping and your location too. If you want to send me an email at bridgeportsbrightestlights@gmail.com. It's in the about section of the channel. You can find the email there. And if you're being serious and you'd like to talk more, we can talk on there. I had an X-Lights question above if you wanted to scroll up. It's close to the top. Let me find it here. Where is it? Coming down here. Oh, here we go. What AI features would you like to see on X-Lights in the future? You don't have to type it again. I just found it. So that's a question I've been thinking about for a while because AI is something that's been huge lately, coming out in the past few years, and I have been wondering how is AI going to impact things being done in X-Lights. I would have to actually think about that question for a while. One of the biggest things, and I think I saw someone mention it, is for singing faces. I've already found a way to not have to program singing faces the way where you have to sort each word on the timing track and move, like get each word perfectly aligned. I found a fix for that years ago, and I have a whole video about it using a website that might honestly already use AI right now. But if X-Lights had a feature built in where it could automatically line up the words for singing faces through AI or however, that would be amazing, and it would help save a lot of time for people that don't know about the little trick I found. Other AI features, I would appreciate, or I would enjoy if sequences could be made with AI, but then again, I feel like that would pull a lot of the special touch from it, and it wouldn't feel as much of a cool show, because I feel like when you have to put in the hours of work and just programming, even though it sucks having to do it, and I honestly don't like doing it as much, I still in the end can look back and enjoy the sequences that I put time and effort into. But if AI just made it instantly, I don't think it would be the same. There'd also be a lot more light shows popping up, and I feel like they'd lose their magic touch just because there's so many light shows everywhere and it's common. So I wouldn't mind if AI stays away from X-Lights. I'm not going to say I don't want it to come, though. I think it could work in great ways. There could be good things added to X-Lights with AI in it. But honestly, I think that we should approach it with caution. That's all I'm going to say. It would be cool if it could add timestamps. That would be cool. Add timestamps in the sequence. I'm not sure what exact timestamps you're looking for, but whether it be for lyrics or beats or whatever, it would kill the creativity for those who have it and the time. Exactly, that's what I was thinking. The creativity part of it would just be completely destroyed if you had AI doing everything for you in X-Lights. It would be cool if you could upload an image and it gave you a prop design. That is something you could do. I think you could use ChatGPT for that now, because you can upload pictures to it and it can figure things out. It's crazy. And I won't lie, I have used ChatGPT in the past to come up with ideas for the light show. Or if like I have an idea for the type of song I want for a part of the show, but I don't know what I'm looking for, I will use it to give me inspiration. But I don't want it to be doing all the work for me. Let's see here. Then add and remove what you like. Yeah, I'm really serious. Let's see. Oh, was there another question I missed? Yeah, so that's my thoughts on AI and X-Lights. If you have any other questions, feel free to let me know now. I can stay for a few more minutes and answer some more questions. One thing I did want to mention and shout out is the membership program that I started almost a couple months ago, where for $5 a month you could become a member and get early access to videos and a couple of other features. And for $10 a month, you can get access to live streams that will be just for members and some extra shorts content, YouTube shorts content. It's mainly just if you'd like to help support the channel even more than watching the videos or liking and subscribing to them. And I truly do appreciate it. Even if you're not a member, I appreciate you for being here watching this stream. Thank you. But if you do want to help out some more and get some extra perks, that is a way. And you can go to the membership tab on the channel to figure out or find out more about it. It's just a little extra thing I've been trying to work on. So if you are interested in that, I'd really appreciate it. And if not, that's also perfectly fine too. I think they call that a color organ. I'm not sure what, let me see, what did I miss? I don't want AI for sequencing, that takes the fun away. Yes, I agree. I'm not sure what Thomas is replying to though with the color organ. I'm not sure what that was about. Let's see, is there anything else I wanted to talk about? I do have a couple of videos already in the planning coming up for a little bit of a teaser with those. I have 2 videos almost finished right now, and I'm just scheduling them out so they can be spaced out evenly. The next video is going to be about an unboxing I got for some new packages for the light show. A couple of, I think, have I mentioned any of them yet? I'll keep them a secret, so it'll be a surprise. But there will be an unboxing video with some stuff from Wired Watts and an Amazon package and some other stuff. And then after that, the next video I'm working on is a video about the cost of a light show and everything you need to build one. So it can help you get a rough estimate of how much the light show is going to cost. It just breaks down all the different pieces into categories like the hardware, the software, the lights themselves, and I think that'll be a good video. Will you be adding more sequences to your sequence page? Are you talking about on Xlight Sequences, the website? I should be. I think I added 2024 sequences. Now I can't remember if I did or not, though. I'll go check to make sure I added those sequences from this past year's light show. And this year's light show, I will also have sequences up on there as well. Your IRL name is Nick. Nice to meet another Nick. That's cool. And oh, looks like everyone is saying their name. Oh, we got another Thomas in the chat. That's cool. Any hints? Will you be adding any hints? I'm not sure what you mean by that. But yeah, so sequences will be up on Xlight Sequences for this year's light show after light show comes. So that won't be until January of next year. But this past year's light show sequences should be on Xlight Sequences already. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to cover in this stream. I'll wait a few more minutes to see if we have any other questions come in. Oh, we got one right here. Are you using a computer to run everything? And if so, how big does the computer have to be? This is something I also talk about in the cost video that should be coming up in a few weeks. But technically, yes, I do use a computer, but it's not the same type of computer you think of. I use something called a Raspberry Pi, and let me see if I can actually find one over here so I could show you. This one's in a case, but this should work fine to show an example. This is the size of the computer right here. This is a Raspberry Pi computer. It's in a case, so if you haven't seen what one looks like, you could just look it up. They're about $100-ish, and it's a whole computer just packed into this board. You have everything. It's not a fast computer, but it is a computer, and the whole light show is ran on 1 or 2 of these. That way I don't have a light or a computer that's being used just for the light show. So yes, it is ran by a computer. It doesn't have to be fast at all. A slow computer could honestly work for smaller shows if you want to use an actual computer. No matter what, I just recommend getting a Raspberry Pi though, because it's a lot easier and you don't have to put a computer just to be running the light show. I don't normally watch live streams, but I am really enjoying this one. Thanks, Nick. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Like I said, I really wasn't hopeful for it because it's kind of hard to show a lot of this on live, but I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching. You can use a Raspberry Pi, which is a single board computer. Yeah, that's what I was just talking about. Everything you need on this computer. You can hook up a mouse, a keyboard, a monitor, but you don't even need those for running the light show. You can log into this from another computer. I don't think I'm going to be making a video about that anytime soon because I have an older one. Even though it is a little bit outdated, it's not as outdated as some other videos. I was just going to do the thing where I point up to the top of the screen and say you could check out this video here to find it, but this is live, so I can't add the card there. But yeah, I do have some videos on my channel talking about that. Any other questions for the last few minutes of this stream, and then we will be ending. I'll wait a few more seconds again. Just lost my train of thought now. I can't remember what I was going to say. Oh, these streams were originally and still are technically going to be member-only streams eventually. Just as the membership, what was the name of it? The membership is named Pro Illuminators and Jedi Illuminators. So in the future, once we get more Illuminators in the membership, these probably will be more for members only. I might still make a few public ones. But if you would like to become a member, that's something you could get. And I, like I said, really do appreciate it. But I'm not seeing anything else in the comments. So I think that's going to wrap it up for this video. Oh, let's see. One more thing. No, this... What? Oh, okay. This was fun. Thanks. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm going to try and come over to my computer now to do the outro thing like I did in the last stream. Let me... Oh, I figure I'll show this because this is kind of funny. I had another camera set up that I was going to try and use, but it's a bit messed up right now. You can see kind of my hand. Maybe not. It's completely frozen now. Well, I was going to try and use this camera, but it stopped working, so that's funny. Anyway, I'm going to move on to the outro screen in just a second. But thank you very much for watching. If you're watching this afterwards, after it's live, and you do have any questions or comments, you can feel free to leave them down below. This was a good stream if it was your first. It was my second, so thank you for watching. Thanks, Nick. Enjoy the rest of your day. You too. I would like to pay to support your channel, but I would rather buy lights. That's understandable. I completely understand that. No problem. Thank you. Cool background. Thanks. No problem. So yeah, but if you have any questions or comments afterwards, feel free to leave them in the comment section down below. And I'll see you whenever I see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.